Hey everybody, how's it going? We are starting the reading with an energy of you looking at something that's going on, you observing something that's going on, feeling something that's going on. The way that your energy is coming through looks like this is not something that you are being reactive to, and it can be something where you really want to collect your thoughts before you do something about this. The way that it's showing up is that this thing, you are going to have to do something about it, but you don't want to be hasty in the way that you deal with it. Meaning, it's going to help you to be level-headed and calculated with this thing. See the way that King of Cups is calmly looking at this? So it's something where you're going to have to go in there and you're going to have to do something about it. But King of Cups is an energy where the way that we express ourselves can be very deliberate when we're in that energy. So we're not being reactive to what's going on. It doesn't mean that we're not impacted. It doesn't mean that we're not engaged. It does mean that we have control over the way that we are interacting with the situation. And it seems overall like that's going to show you what you need to see. What you can be realizing is some type of problem that has to be resolved. Five of Wands is somewhere where there's tension that you're observing that's become very obvious. Like this is no longer swept under the rug in any way. It's just like out clear in the middle of, it's kind of center stage, the way that this is coming through. This can also mean too, like maybe something's going on and you have a bit of a problem with it and you can be expressing that, but it's going to be in a way where how you handle this is what you deem as being like a respectable way to handle this type of situation. So it's not anything where you're freaking out. It's not anything where you are creating like more drama within this situation. You're more so looking at something saying like, I recognize that I'm feeling called to address this, but I'm going to handle it in a way that I deem as being appropriate. And I think too with the King of Cups, we do not want to we don't want to add anything unnecessary to what's going on because we want to feel peace at the end of the day in our hearts. And so this isn't something where you're going to like create more of a problem here. King of Cups is an energy that's going to tune into this, be very compassionate when it comes to what's going on and figure out the best route to handle this. And this is also something that comes more from the heart than it does from the logical mind because we have a King of Cups here. So maybe this is something where like empathy or compassion is needed to understand this. Maybe there's like something like that that's going on here where it's more so about feeling into this and being present to what you're feeling and then taking action based off of, once again, what it is that you're feeling in this scenario. I am seeing you be ready to take this on. It also seems to like, this is something that can be, whatever this thing is that you have to address, it's something that's getting in the way of you being somewhere that you want to be right now. It's kind of like blocking you from moving forward. So it would be conflicting with what you want to do, which what you want to do has now become obvious. Where you want to go, there's an awareness of this now, and so it also feels like it sheds light on something that's like not really allowing that to happen, and that's what this particular situation is that needs to be addressed. This feels like a time where if you want truth, you can problem solve very easily, but you are going to want to see things clearly. So if there's any sort of like escapism, any sort of pushing down what it is that you really feel, any type of like avoidance over what's actually going on, it's going to make this much more difficult. Having Pluto and having the sun connect with one another can mean that you become aware of stuff that was kind of going on below the surface. This is looking like an opposition to me, and I also know too that the sun is going to be, well, on the day that I'm recording this, it hasn't happened yet, but I know that a little bit before this reading ends up being published, the sun and Pluto are going to be opposing one another actually. And so this can be something that you saw happen like when that opposition maybe was exact, which I think would be whenever the sun's at about like 2-3 degrees. I think like around the 24th. So a couple days ago. So this can kind of be like the aftermath. I think maybe at that point it can be when you realized something that was like a problem that maybe you weren't aware of before. Something that needs to be addressed, something that you're going to have to like use your personal power in order to confront. And now at this point, there can be problem solving. Like maybe you looked at something and you're like, yeah, that's really getting in the way for me. So you spotted what the thing was. That can be what happened a couple days ago. Now at this point, you can be figuring out, how do I problem solve? How do I take this apart? How do I find resolution? So that's where I'm seeing you be working on things currently. This also means too that like what you want and what you feel connected with and what you want to be connecting with and how you want to be working on things and what you want to be working on, especially having King of Cups, this can be like stuff that intuitively you feel drawn to. It can be relationships that you feel drawn to. It can be creative ventures that you feel drawn to. Anything where there's going to be a spiritual connection to something and it's a path that you want to be walking. This Five of Wands is something that's coming to light that you're being made aware of is getting in the way of you doing that. And I'm not seeing this be a type of block where it's a barrier that's going to last forever. This is more, well, if you address this, it's something that can actually be resolved, but you're going to have to put energy into that. And that's why we have Judgment here. Judgment is going to be the thing that puts this under a microscope and analyzes it. You look at all of the pieces, you see how the energy is kind of knotted around itself, and then how to untangle it. And that's going to be the moment where you see the path becoming more clear for you and see that it's actually possible for you to do what it is that you want to be doing here. And that this doesn't need to be something that stops you. But yeah, when we have Pluto coming up connected with the sun, you can see where you make moves from a place of avoidance. You can see where you're not totally being honest about certain things. You can be seeing where you're refusing to surrender when it's necessary, where you're not allowing change, where you're stopping yourself from growing and evolving because you don't want to let go of certain situations. So it can be these sorts of things that come to light that you're made aware of. And I think the part of you that is tuned in spiritually, having King of Cups here, and psychologically, because that's connected with Pluto and the sun, this can be something where you're just like seeing things as they are and realizing like, I'm not going to get to do this thing that I really want to do unless I address this. And so I think there's a motivation there to actually be doing this, because the payoff is going to be worth it. As soon as this is addressed, I'm seeing things move very, very, very quickly. You go from Five of Wands, which is like stuck in a little tornado, to then Eight of Wands, which is everything, all of the energy moving in the same direction. So you go from this, which is like getting caught up in the thing, all the way to this, which is giving you a clear direction. And this can be things going in a lot of different directions. And then this is when like all of those wands are used for the same exact thing. So your energy is no longer scattered. And maybe that's also part of what you were realizing too, you know, like I'm doing this thing or I'm allowing this thing to continue and it's conflicting with what I want to be doing over here. So it's like getting all of your energy pushing in the same direction. So there's just one clear path forward. And understanding what wasn't allowing that to happen before. There could have possibly been avoiding something unpleasant. That may be why this wasn't being addressed. Can also be something that wasn't fully being expressed either, having Sun, King of Cups, and Knight of Cups here. Could have also like maybe had mixed feelings or something like that about how to really move forward given the circumstance. I think this is like just getting to the bottom of things. And as you're doing that, the way forward feeling clear and all of your energy feel like it's going in the same direction rather than being scattered. And that it kind of like opens up the floor for you to be doing what you want to do, and now everything can move forward. Interesting. I see just something, it looks like something that was being avoided. Like you weren't doing something about this. What this means is that yeah, I see this more like you knew how you were feeling, but were not taking action based off of that. Or if you were, it could have been in some like undermining type of way. So that means that there could have been maybe like a lack of transparency. There could have been you not being out loud with something. That could be it too, because I'm seeing Seven of Swords connect with King of Cups, and I think overall what that can mean is like we have something in front of us and then we're kind of failing to manage that thing or failing to do something about it. And it has to do with like psychologically what's going on, spiritually what's going on, and something that was not being dealt with. So it can be something where I feel like there was an awareness of this, and it can even be like I'm having these really strong feelings and I want to go in this direction, but I'm not taking action. There's like some type of stagnancy that was happening. And it feels like it was coming from a place of just like wanting to avoid having to confront this. What that can mean as well with this type of energy is that maybe you knew that if you went in a direction that you've been wanting to go in, that there would be like some type of confrontation, maybe externally, that would come about. And maybe it was something that you were like, well, I want to do what I want to do, but I don't really want to deal with that. So now can be a time when you actually do decide to deal with this in a more outright way. But yeah, it can... I see like Seven of Swords and King of Cups more so as like hiding feelings than anything, or doing things in a discreet way where it should be more transparent. Yeah, it's like I want to know why this energy is coming through, because I'm seeing something like, as the King of Cups, I'm seeing something that you look at and you want to do, and it feels like it's a great match for you, but I don't know why all the cagey energy around this. Like, maybe just, you know, if you were to do that and be outright about it, like maybe it would bring up some type of pain that you were avoiding, maybe having to like say something that feels difficult to say, maybe having to confront something that feels really uncomfortable. It feels like that, but it's like, that feels like such a small price to pay in order to be where you want to be, doing what you want to be doing. But maybe you felt like on the emotional front, it like wasn't something that you could handle. Because I think Seven of Swords at the end of the day is that, us feeling like if we were to just show up in a transparent way, we feel like it wouldn't be in our best interest for some reason. But like, obviously it's the shadow that communicates that. So there's having to confront that. And I think like all of the places where we can hide from ourselves and be like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing, and it's like not really. Or we think that something is good for us and is like not really a good way to be doing things. Having Sun and having Pluto can be where you're realizing that you do this. And it can be ways where you like manipulate yourself psychologically, and where it kind of like justifies certain things, but then when you take a closer look, you're like, this actually isn't justified at all, but I really did convince myself there. Because that is the power of water energy. We can really mess with our own minds. We can mess with the minds of other people. We can mess with like the clarity when it comes to our intuition or lack thereof. We can make things very, very confusing. And so this feels like getting to the bottom of that, of like seeing this, all the places that you hide, all of the places where you're not in touch with your personal power, ultimately. Because that is what Pluto is connected with. All the places where you don't feel connected with it. So you're doing things in ways that just reinforce the powerlessness that you feel, the lack of power that you feel, the lack of interconnection that you feel. Yeah, I will say, like, this doesn't have to be the case for every single person, but for some of you, there could have been some type of, like, moral dilemma that was connected with this that maybe wasn't being addressed. Like, maybe there's a need to check in when it comes to your values, and that actually playing a really big part in this, like, what you believe, how you believe is right to be moving forward, and what's really most important to you. Yeah, okay, so what I'm getting overall is this notion of like having something on your heart where something needs to be said / a move needs to be made, and holding it within and not expressing it. And the reason why this wasn't being expressed, or hadn't been being expressed, or hasn't been expressed yet, is because it means that there is something challenging that's going to have to be faced in order, like, if I do this, then it's going to make everything very real, and then I'm going to have to face this. It's like one of those things, and it can be just a scenario that you were avoiding. And this is also the power of the King of Cups. King of Cups is the part of us that can go through anything at all in the entire world. We can have any sort of experience, and we find a way to maneuver through it. We find a way to handle it. We find a way to be within it. And when we are in Shadow King of Cups energy, we can avoid the truth. We can avoid things that feel painful. We can avoid all the things that feel uncomfortable because we don't know how to regulate, or we don't know how to self-soothe. We feel like if we face the truth, we're not going to be able to handle it because we don't feel connected with our centeredness, with our inner like seat that we sit in within our soul. So this can be like revealing that to you, where you know the best way forward, and there's been an avoiding of that because you've been telling yourself you can't handle going the right way within this. So it just feels like a time when you can be like, wow, I'm really seeing where I had been reinforcing this idea that I really am disconnected from my personal power. And in you course correcting here, it's a way to feel reconnected with that once again. All right, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting and tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.